Okay, hello, and thank you for joining. Let me just bring the music to what will probably be quite an abrupt stop. There we go. Welcome to Modern Working with RingCentral. I am James Dancer. I'm Group Technical Director for Academia and Atama. And in the room with me, and hopefully going to put his camera and mic on very shortly, is Ben Hollier, the EMEA Channel Manager for RingCentral, as if on cue. Hello.
Good morning. Hello.
And not quite as well cued, Dave Prince, who is the lead Microsoft and infrastructure consultant at Academia and Atama. So thank you for doing that as well, Dave. Hello, Dave. Cool. So this is going to be a bit conversational this time, because we thought it'd be an idea to effectively do a customer case study, right? It's always good to have a bit of a customer view on how a system works, what it is, how they've done it, and we are ourselves a RingCentral customer. So we thought, who better than myself and Dave, who are involved in the decision-making process, implementation, setup, and use of RingCentral, so we can help contextualize what our experience was. Sound about right, Ben?
Sounds perfect. Yeah, fantastic.
There we go. So Ben, if you want to take over and kick off with your slide deck, then. So guys in the room, we are pretty much just going to have a talk about RingCentral features and what our journey's been along it. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat. There is an option to mark your comment as a question. So if you look at where you type your comment, right next to that, just above on the right-hand side, there's a little button that says chat mode. If you click that button, that puts a little red dot next to your comment. So it means that we know it's a question. So if you forget to use it, don't worry. We've got Ryan from our marketing team moderating the room, so he can mark it as a question for you. So feel free to ask that throughout. There will be a Q&A section at the end. So Ben, over to you, mate.
Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. I'm just going to move on to my slides.
Oh no, you're on mine.
It's already messed it up. What a fantastic start.
Would you like me to load yours for you?
That would be amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay, cool. Right, we'll go back to boy band view really quickly. Hey.
There we go. Here we are. We were playing with this view earlier. Thanks. Perfect.
There you go. No worries.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. It's I was going to say it's nice to see you. It's nice to virtually see you. I'm sure you're sitting there nice and safe at home, as we all have been for the last few weeks. So yeah, as the chaps are saying, yeah, we've worked together not just on a partner level, but on a customer level as well. So there's there's a benefit of experience there from the RingCentral technology, from a sort of a B2B level, and an end user level, someone that's used our technology and understands what it's about. Idea of today, we're going to try and keep this as interactive as possible. We've only got you for a very short period of time, so just want to tell you a little bit about who RingCentral are, where we sit in the market. Are we a big company? Are we a small company? A little bit about what we do, because I'm sure we're probably all thinking the same type of thing around what work looks like right now, and what work might look like for the for the coming months and years. So yeah, just going to talk through a little bit about RingCentral, who we are and what we do, and then the chaps are going to chip in with their thoughts along the way. So we reached quite a significant milestone for our business. We were aiming to become $1 billion run rate business, which for us really just ratifies quite a significant growth, over the last 3-4 years, as the business has, obviously seen a massive uptake in collaborative attitudes in the market, and we're all trying to become as productive as possible, and sometimes that means working from home and not traveling as much. So it's
whether you have a choice technology or not.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, but it's something that it's an industry I've worked in for around about I don't know, should I say about 17 years maybe. And I've seen some quite significant changes. A lot of them have benefited me, if I'm honest, from the perspective of being able to not feel like there's a void when I go from office to home office, and not feel like I'm missing out on on the experience of being in the office from the perspective of the technology that I need while I'm in there. Other than having a gratuitously large monitor, the one thing that I really love about our office is that that my monitor is a lot smaller than this spontaneous purchase that occurred in the first couple of weeks of lockdown. So back to us. So the business has seen quite a significant growth year on year. 34%. It's down to the technology and how accessible it is to the likes of yourselves and how you can consume that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as we move forward. Don't have to take my word for it. There are lots of independent businesses out there that also look at the industry, see where those organizations are like ourselves, and see where they sit and where what their trajectory is in the space and where they're ultimately going. Gartner is a fantastic asset for a variety of different markets. This one in particular is around UCaaS, so Unified Communications as a Service. For those not up on any of these buzzwords or acronyms, UCaaS is when you take a stack of communications, you put it all into one place. It's unifying your communications all in one place. RingCentral have been recognized by Gartner as a leader in that space. I won't go into all of this, but essentially it's an asset that you guys can look into if you want some more information from
just to make a quick point on that as well, like when we were looking at our own systems, we pretty much looked exactly at that, right? There's loads of different options about which phone systems you go for, and I think we can mention this, but if we can't, I'm going to mention it anyway, Ben. The other sort of front runner for our own system was Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Phone System, and one of the reasons we didn't go for that, even though we use Microsoft Teams internally, the same as a lot of businesses do, is there's partially an all your eggs in one basket thing with it, but also the depth of configuration you can go to in RingCentral for things like call groups, workflows, automation, reporting was absolutely crazy. And anybody who's watching this probably knows us as a business quite well, I would hope. So that we have a whole bunch of different teams in our business, loads of different options to get through to people. Teams interact with each other on a very, very, very frequent basis. So that was why we went for a dedicated UCaaS leading system as opposed to something like Microsoft Phone System. So the Magic Quadrant thing was actually quite instrumental in us having a look at who we think we should go for based on who's the most forward thinking, etc.
Yeah, and that's actually, it's a really nice segue into what I was about to say, which is that the quadrant is very very good for identifying. You've got the 4 boxes of challengers, leaders, niche, and visionaries, and what you can see is that RingCentral really pushing to the top right in the leader space, which means completeness of vision and ability to execute are both very high for us. There's a whole report on this. I'm happy to send it to anyone that would like to have a read afterwards. It's very, very interesting. But around your point around the Microsoft piece, a fantastic technology, and we just help make it that little bit better for those that want to remain the Microsoft house, or we can offer the complete solution without, as is with the majority of integrations that we're actually going to brush on those in a little bit. The same with Frost & Sullivan, just so you don't have to take Gartner's word for it. The same type of research is done by Frost & Sullivan as well, which again pushes us top right and puts us in a very nice position. So all of these hopefully are starting to help you build a bit of a picture about where Ring in the industry, and I guess the trajectory of the business. Now, the growth of cloud, I think for the majority of anyone in probably the technical or the IT or the procurement or anyone that's ever worked for a business will probably start to look and see changes within the way we work. And with the rise of more cloud-based technologies, it's probably not entirely surprising that we're starting to see some of those boxes of lights and cables starting to disappear out of our office. and everything becoming a little bit more of a cloud-based as a service proposition. Now, on-premise technologies, so the typical phone systems that used to sit in the corners of our offices or have their whole own room to themselves are now being evicted from the building, and things are being consumed over public internet. If you'd said that to me 15 years ago when I was working in the conference call industry, I probably would have laughed you out of the room. But now look where we are, where connectivity stronger than ever, and everything traffics incredibly fluidly as a cloud-based consumption.
I think so. That's quite. Sorry, go on, Ben.
I was about to say, RingCentral's growth has really seen us accelerate a lot of businesses into being able to consume that cloud proposition a lot quicker than perhaps other technologies.
Yeah. So the point I was going to make is it was really from our side of things is a really good point, is that we've saved probably about half a rack U based on our legacy phone system. So, we have all of our stuff ourselves sits in, data center space as opposed to, in a room in our office. But that half a rack is actually quite valuable because it means we don't have to burst into another one. It means we don't have to worry about the power charges. There's not as much other kit to maintain as before. So we had what was I'm going to do this unified comms platform, but it was still based on tin that we had to maintain and we had to pay for the housing of and the security of, etc. So now we have none, which is awesome.
Yeah, and to cover that from a technical side, with the hosted on-prem solution, I remember being at data centers at 2 or 3 in the morning. Working
I remember you doing that as well.
To undertake some very arduous upgrade tasks that literally took 4 or 5 hours to complete. That was one of the selling points from a very selfish point, from my point of view, I could say, for moving cloud, is the fact that the kind of overall maintenance, the overall cost, and the overall effort that goes into supporting the on-premise gear has gone completely.
Yeah, we've got a web UI to maintain now, and that's basically it. And that's config rather than core infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, because when it comes down to managing those assets that sit in an office, and actually imagine the scenario where you're not allowed in the office, and you've got that box just sitting there, and you can't actually physically get your hands on it to move and patch and change things around. Whereas with the RingCentral platform, which I'll show you in a minute, everything you could do from your mobile, from a tablet, you can set up whole other offices in 60 seconds in different countries of the world.
That is a really good point. It's the only system I've seen that has admin controls from an iPhone. So we can actually, as an administrator, we can wander around with an iPhone making changes to call groups, workflows, DDIs, users accounts, all of that. And I've literally haven't seen that on any other platform. You have to go to a notebook or a desktop PC and actually log in on a full web browser. This is built into the app, which is awesome.
Yeah, which just increases the ability to help our users scale and make changes to the platform if you're someone that's in charge of doing that.
Or in bed at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, it's RingCentral, very mobile first business, so the ability to access the platform from everything, everywhere, is kind of one of our key USPs. But I'm glad it's something that you guys picked up on. A lot of RingCentral's success is down to the amount that the business actually invests into the platform and the direction of the technology itself. You can see as an indicator of how seriously the business takes it. You can see the difference between, our closest competitor and how seriously RingCentral takes that investment into R&D. And I have to say, as a user of the platform for the last 18, 19 months, I really feel like I've seen the benefit of that spend. the platform, which kind of blew me away when I first saw it, has had iterations over the last 18, 19 months that have really put it into a very, very strong position. And I'm talking from a user's perspective of, how I do my calls, my meetings, and how I message the rest of my team and you guys. I've seen a real evolution of the platform. So shut up, Ben. Tell me what it looks like. I hear you say. So what we're seeing is that as end users of IT and end users of technology, what we're seeing is that there is this desire to be less kind of shackled to the office. Now, whether or not that is going out on a lunch break and needing to take a call or a message from someone, or whether or not that's having a day at home to drop the kids in and out of nursery or what have you, or any number of reasons where you actually leave the office space, that the business needs to continue. And what we're seeing is that there's a lot of technologies out there that a lot of businesses, a lot of hospitals, universities, schools, like literally everybody, all have this very, very extensive landscape of desktop apps and technologies that they use. And so what RingCentral is really focused on is trying to give you that single pane of glass experience where everything kind of lives, in one place. As you can see on the slide right now, 69% of workers waste up to an hour a day navigating between apps. I'm surprised it's that little time, because we all have a lot of different tools to use, right? Working at RingCentral sort of dials down that noise a lot, just to the one place. Also, from a perspective of how we engage with customers, people that procure services from us and have a relationship with us that we want to keep and keep loving them even from a distance. So there's quite a high focus on customer satisfaction scores, and what we find through our customer engagement tools is that we're able to draw the customer and the business closer together, so they don't feel so distended from the relationship. So yeah, I mean, never before has been a more salient point that things are changing for us in the collaboration space and in the business space. We're starting to want and need really a very well connected environment from within our business, but we don't need to be physically in the business to have that. So what we're seeing is that what we're trying to do is keep everyone connected, and make it simple, as you can see on there. Any device, any mode, anywhere. And I said that earlier. It's really from a RingCentral perspective, the ability to access everything we do across all of our devices. I mean, I won't show you my desk because it looks like someone's thrown a grenade in the room, but multiple devices, and I can pick up any one of those and just wander off and still feel very well connected to all my RingCentral apps. My calling, my messaging, and my meetings. I pick and choose which one I want to use, when I want to use it, depending on where I'm going, and depending on which child is running aloof through the house. So,
yeah. Would you like to hear my favourite device to use it on?
Go on.
I don't know. I don't think a lot of people think about this, but so my favourite device is my car, because it's CarPlay integrated, right? So just the fact that I can be driving around to, obviously not right now, but I can be driving around to meetings in a normal working environment and hit the RingCentral button and then tell it who I want to call by name or by number or whatever, and it will call out from my work DDI as opposed to using my mobile phone. So I'm one of those people, I don't have a separate work mobile phone because we should have a phone system that means I'm communicating with people on my direct dial number, my work direct dial number, not my mobile. And previously, when I had to, I was in the car, I had to make an urgent call to someone, and I call from my mobile number. It sounds, it's not meant to be a negative thing, but once someone has your mobile number, especially if you're a tech, and Dave can probably attest to this as well.
Absolutely.
That can be a little dangerous to your work-life balance. So being able to drive around and make a work call via RingCentral, and even I didn't realize this until a few months ago, you can send text messages via it as well. That's a really, really, really useful feature. And you don't tend to think of a car as a device, but I actually do. I use that on a very, very regular basis. Again, caveat, when we're allowed to drive to places.
I mean, a couple of things from my point as well. We came up to a point a few months back where we're about to print new business cards, and people are asked, "What's your mobile number?" If you're happy to give customers your mobile number, put it on a business card, then why not? Point is, you don't need to do that anymore. You have one number that is your work number that you are accessible anywhere. And also going back to Ben's point earlier about working from anywhere. One of the biggest pains for me working in IT are desk moves. So you've got
we know, Dave, we're very aware that you hate doing desk moves.
So you have select groups of members of staff who move around banks of desks, and with the old-fashioned physical phones, you would either have to upshift them and move them all across, increasing cables, all this, that, and the other. And if they didn't move their phone, you need to reset the handset at the desk they're at. With this, none of that. It is completely portable, completely mobile.
I think the other point we mentioned on I think it was the first webinar we did in the VTC series, was about how we do remote working. And one of the things we're quite proud of, and this isn't a boast or a brag or anything like that, but when the lockdown situation was approaching and nobody knew what was going on, we sat down as a business, and a couple of weeks before we're like, okay, this is probably going to happen, so we need to get ahead of the game, and it's what we should do as a responsible business is get everybody to work from home. And the only issue, if it was even an issue, that we actually had was staff going, "Can I take an extra monitor home, please?" So we had to cut some cable ties in the cable management under the desks to let them take a monitor home. That was it. From a phone system point of view specifically, previously there'd have been handsets going, there'd have been buying mobiles. I've heard of lots of businesses, especially in our space, who had to panic buy mobile phones because they had an old school PBX that was on site and their staff physically couldn't take the devices home. Everyone in our business has a headset for their notebook, or they have these things for their tablet or whatever. So everyone just went home with the kit they have all day, every day anyway, and it works exactly the same at home as it does in the office. So even being prepared for the unexpected, it meant that our transition, that could have been a crucial point that would have caused us a lot of problems, and would probably have meant, as a business, we couldn't have let staff go home as early as we did. We were about 2 weeks before lockdown, I think, Dave. We made the call, we're going to do this anyway.
Something like that, yeah.
And if we'd have been right up to the bat and it was, you have to work from home now, we'd have had a lot more problems. So that's, from our experience, it was an absolute godsend, really.
Yeah, and I think there's so much truth in that now, and also for the future, because no matter what type of organization you work in, whether or not it's health or education or military or government, whatever it is, the one thing that we all share in common is the need to communicate and work together, albeit internally or externally. And the success of that is dependent on the tools that we use and whether or not we can take those tools with us and continue. For example, a little RingCentral user hack here for you. When you're sitting in front of your laptop and you want to wander off to make a coffee, or and you don't want to have one of those "oops, I'm still plugged into my laptop" moments, and you just want to hand the call off to your mobile, you can actually pick up your mobile device and go into the RingCentral app and just hand it over to your mobile, and off you go. Whether or not you're going for a walk around the block for some fresh air, or whether or not you just know that your laptop is about to pack up because the battery is battery's down to 1% and your child has hidden your cable.
Sounds like a voice of experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is. It is. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. The cable management in my household is pretty rife at the moment with, kids trying to use them as string or, all sorts of things. But
So I did not know about
ability,
handoff. I'm going to do that now. I'm doing that when I'm back
there
in
you
the
go.
office. I'm going to do that a lot.
And my second gift to you, and quite the biggest thing for me, because where I live is essentially no man's land. There's a very small population where I live, and it's essentially in the countryside. Now, when I am on a call and I'm starting to go from population into nothing, and the signal does drop. Now, when you use the RingCentral app, you can actually switch it to carrier. So if the call starts to get a bit jittery because you haven't got the data connectivity where you are in the countryside, because let's face it, it's just cows and fields, and not many phone masts, then I flip that to carrier and I continue my call as normal. So there's none of this.
So I did know about that one because my family are originally from the countryside, and I've had that exact experience when I've been visiting them. So that's been very useful.
It's a game changer for me, because no matter which carrier I use, I suffered the same fate. So it's there you go, two little giveaways there. So in regards to what we do as a business, there are essentially, I guess, kind of two paths to what we do. We have the internal and external messaging, where we're calling and we're messaging each other internally, and having our meetings, with suppliers or prospects or what have you. But then on the flip side, that's the orange side. But on the left hand side, you'll see the more customer based interactions, where you're managing someone that's buying a service from you, or if you're in education, you might be having the ability for people to call up about clearing. If you're in health, you've got it's the whole kind of interaction between the business and its customers that really keeps them connected. Whether or not that is over Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp Messenger or Twitter, everything's connected into one pane of glass, which means that people don't have to go through the traditional ways of trying to contact, where you call up and you're on hold for half an hour, or you send an email. The power of a cloud-based contact center and customer engagement tools is that they can sit at home and can still represent the business and help you with one of your inquiries. I called up a well-known white goods manufacturer, and I don't know if you can mention that. Let's just say that the first letter was A, and I kind of geeked out for a second. I said, are you working from home at the moment? Because my experience was really good. Picked up really quickly. They sounded alive and sounded very energetic. I was like, it's got to be working from home. And turns out, one, they were using RingCentral, which is on the buy. But the second, it was random. The second thing was he got very animated about telling me about how he's able to help people, and then switch off his availability so that it passes to someone else, go and grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and then come back again. So I had a really, really good experience. So we focused a lot on those two types of experiences, and they integrate together, and they're considered as sort of one mean of communication. Put a lot of focus on that as a business to make sure that we don't give such juxtaposition experiences from one to the other. So I've talked about sort of the three main pillars of RingCentral, which is phone, message, and meeting. Just going to run through those just very quickly. I'm sure you guys probably very au fait with what a phone is, but the way that it works with RingCentral is that we put everything under one roof in the app, so that you have the ability to message, call, and meet. And you can see that from the actual app itself. You can see across the bottom of that mobile, you can see all of the main tools that you use to communicate with each other. Messaging, I'm a heavy GIF user, so sometimes I don't even use words. Sometimes it's just, you know, an animation that gets the job done. But it does add a lot to a team environment, where you're trying to communicate with each other, trying to have a bit of fun, as well as the more important things like tasks and sharing files with people and all of the things that you'd come to expect. And then there's the power of video. I don't know about those of you that have joined today, but every meeting I've had for probably the last month and a half has been video on for everyone. Seeing everybody's beaming smiles and faces, seeing their guitars in the background, seeing, yeah.
Dave's literally got guitars in the background.
He has, yeah. Seeing, you know, random Lego portraits and marketing banners and all sorts of really, really eye-opening experiences where we're sort of letting each other into our worlds a little bit more, because, you know, we've all got lives outside of work. It's nice to be invited into those.
I think actually from our perspective, we've really embraced video recently. We were starting to do it anyway, but this whole situation ramped that up quite significantly. But what we found is the main thing from it is that it's important to sort of see people's reactions to what you're saying and things anyway. There's a human connection element there. But also you actually build a much better relationship with someone in this situation when you're both working remotely and you're kind of at home. You open up a little bit more. So we've had, you know, people we've spoken to that we've, you know, had a good relationship with, but it's been very like almost like a production line. Like you have the same conversation about the same thing every time, and you want to get through the end of the conversation, and then you get to the end of that process, and then you kind of carry on. But we've been chatting a lot more and engaging them as people a lot more, just because it feels more personal than just being on a phone call. Like you're not a disembodied voice that's at the end of a phone to fulfill a task that could be a robot. You're actually a moving, living, breathing person. And it helps you connect with a person as a person a lot more rather than their job role, effectively. So we found it really, really good for getting a lot closer to our customers as people, as opposed to just, you know, they're a customer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, right? We're all here to help each other, and yes, we do have jobs and job titles, and, you know, and things that are important to, you know, helping people that have never met us before understand what it is we do. But the main thing we do is that we're all humans, and we're all here to help each other. And, you know, that's the purpose of today, is to give you guys a window into what RingCentral can do and how we do it. You know, and we hope to speak to all of you after this, and just tell us about your world. Tell us about how it works, how it doesn't work. What do you love about what you do right now, and what your communication tools give you right now, and what does collaboration look like? Let's talk about it, because what we can do, and I guess the quickest win for anybody that works with RingCentral and uses RingCentral's tools is the integration into your desktop. The ability to tie in things like your CRM systems, your back office and ticketing systems is a very, very quick win for you. And we talked about the Microsoft integration already. We've talked about how it can really add a very feature-rich global voice platform into your Teams messaging, or you can have it standalone, you know, as nature intended, a full all-in-one solution in its natural habitat. But absolutely tons of integrations. We've got 200 out-of-the-box integrations. We've got 2,000 third-party integrations, and the list just keeps on growing. And as you can see, Google, Box, ServiceNow, Salesforce, you know, the whole Microsoft stack. You know, our Teams integration is growing, and yeah, there's a huge opportunity for anyone that works with RingCentral to not just deploy calling, messaging, and meetings, but also draw the rest of that desktop close together. Now, for those that are perhaps happy to admit that they're nerds and geeks, I am one. Hello, my name's Ben. I'm a nerd.
We're all nerds on this call, mate.
Fine, in good company. The analytics that sit on the back end of RingCentral's platform are so good. They're very clear, very accurate, very detailed, but also in a way that you can understand them. And this is something that we used to use internally, but flipped to customers to use because there was just such demand. And I hear the analytics and the reporting and the wallboarding are all very, very important aspects of how the RingCentral service is managed, but also how the ROI is kind of put back into the business to say, hey, you're using your meetings a lot, you're using your calls a lot, you're not using your mobile, you're using, the RingCentral app across the office Wi-Fi, or, lots of things in there that are essentially, really, really important elements of the platform itself. I talked about global, I talked about why RingCentral is such an expandable, scalable platform, available in 100 plus countries, with lots of localized languages and support, and it's a single platform. It doesn't change where you go. It looks and feels the same. So we're getting just towards the end now. I talked about these integrations. We're all of us on the call today are more than happy just to sit down and just talk about what your desktop looks like. Where's the opportunity to create quick wins for you via the integrations that we have? Because pulling things like CRM systems into your calling and being able to have screen pop and seeing who's calling you and the last calls that they had, that's a very powerful tool. And it also, it doesn't put you on the back foot when, you need to recall some data about the last couple of calls that you had with a customer or prospect or even internal one. So that's it from me. There's, what we're not trying to do is say goodbye to you guys. In fact, this is a big hello. We want to hear from you all after the call. We would love to have a chat with you and find out more about your businesses and what you're doing, and see if there's an opportunity to help you and work together with you, and maybe give you a little bit more information about what we do.
Cool. Thanks very much, Ben. I'm just going to put it back to boy band view very quickly, so I can just stick a holding slide up. Where are we? And I'm trying to get rid of this as quickly as possible. There we go. That's much better. So we have a question. So now's the time. If you wanted to ask a question, you haven't already, please do so. Bear in mind there is a 10-second delay, so it might take us a little bit of time to get to yours. We have one already, which says Apple FaceTime works free. How do you compare with RingCentral? So I've got a view on this. I'm sure everybody has. One thing is that ties you to the Apple platform, so you can't necessarily guarantee everybody you want to call will also be on an Apple device. FaceTime's obviously very, very good for Apple to Apple calling, but Apple to Android or Apple to Windows desktop, obviously you can't use FaceTime for that. So there's a platform choice there because RingCentral is available on everything, and we use it on whatever devices our staff want to use it on. Second thing from our perspective is you can't schedule a FaceTime call. So while you can send a calendar invite and say, I will call you on FaceTime, you can't do something like set up a meeting and then everybody, however many people that is, can join the same room at the same time. It's a lot more complicated to do that with FaceTime. So that's my view on it. I don't know, guys, if you've got any more to add on that.
Well, I suppose one more thing to add is that FaceTime is a personal platform. So
True.
Well, predominantly anyway, there is Apple School Manager, Apple Business Manager, for example, but it's a personal platform. Yes, it's very simple to pick up your iPhone and make a video call to another iPhone. If you are running a business, if you're running a company and you want to provide everybody with a single platform they can work on and you can get metrics out the back of that, then obviously FaceTime is not going to tick that box. So using RingCentral, it can be branded to your company, familiar experience to everybody, and more importantly, it's something that as a stakeholder in a business, that your staff are using the platform.
Yeah, and that goes back to your personal mobile number is a personal mobile number thing. Yeah. So with FaceTime, someone has to have either your iCloud details, which is, again, a lot of the time personal, unless you're using Apple Business Manager or something like that, or your personal mobile number, or just a mobile number. With RingCentral, the number follows you whatever device you happen to be on. So that's why it's sort of a I don't want to say business or educational. It's not. as Ben said earlier, everyone's just people. It's an organization-based communication system as opposed to a specific person to specific person based communication system, which is more what FaceTime is.
Yeah, and I guess as a devout Apple fan, I'm surrounded by pretty much an entire Apple store, right now. In fact, it's quite embarrassing how much I bought. But from the perspective of, it's a great question, right? Apple, FaceTime is a fantastic tool, but it is a singular mode of communication. There's no file sharing or anything in there. It's just face to face. It's just one to one, which when you then want to do more with it, you then have to move to another form of technology to be able to do that. And as the gents are saying a second ago, it's something that's relatively personal to the phone and to the number. And yes, you can put a business line or whatever behind that, but I guess when you start to operate from a single platform, you can use our video just as easily. And also the analytics and the reporting that goes behind it as well, but also the SLAs and and everything that sits behind that as well, just to put it all into one package. I love the idea of of being able to use consumer tools as well as business, and everything, just the lines blur and then everything just becomes one sort of utopia. And the reality is that there are some tools that we want to begin and end at certain times in the day, and RingCentral is your working environment. And don't get me wrong, I'd be doing pub quizzes to the local villagers every Friday, and we do that as well, and we use video, but we also share a desktop to go through the quiz and things like that. So it's a great question. It is a great question, but
on that note, there's a really great follow-up question, which is, how do you compare with Zoom? I'm leaving Ben to answer this one.
Yeah, again, really, really good questions. These are very logical questions to ask. So we have one partnership around the video and meeting side of our RingCentral Office platform. That is a very, very long-standing partnership with Zoom. So we actually do partner with them to offer customers that want to use Zoom and the RingCentral stack all together. But then we also have RingCentral Video, which is a proprietary solution. So it's our own built and grown. And we actually give two options. You'll know Zoom, you'll know what they do, you'll know the experience you have. So when we talk through what a customer's looking for, then we talk them through what's available.
Just a quick question from my side here. Bear in mind, I'm not
you going to ask a
user.
question?
I'm going to ask a question here based on Zoom.
Well, you are, because you use RingCentral meetings. So.
Yeah, so I use RingCentral meetings, yes, but I'm not. So Zoom is a video conferencing platform. It is not a telephony platform, correct?
It's so they have started to add in some elements of voice into the platform from a phone perspective. I think it looks very good. I think what they do is very good as well. But I think that the thing for me is that RingCentral started 20 plus years ago and really focused on voice and got voice really, really good, and then layered collaboration and all those other stacks on top. So if you look at the majority of businesses out there today that have focused on many other areas and then focused on voice, or almost last, but last is a very easy word to use. Let's just say later than us. And what it's meant is that they're actually putting in that time into growing and maturing and strengthening that voice platform, whereas RingCentral started with that and got it really, really strong. So everybody at some point in their lives has been on a call, be it a VoIP call, be it a normal, mobile call or whatever, where you've had that jitter and you've probably dropped a couple of expletives, hung up the phone, and then called them back again. Everyone's had that. But what you want to do is, if you're going to sign up and use a service, you're going to want to know that it is robust, secure, well invested. So
I think actually, so we can attest to that as well. And we can, when we went on our own UCaaS journey, not UCaaS as in, UCaaS, the body, Unified Comms as a Service, we were with a different provider before we were with RingCentral, which didn't really work for us. And one of the reasons was we had loads of call drops. We had lots of issues in testing. We had lots of issues in production when all the testing stuff was kind of fixed. That meant it just was not a flow-based system to deploy. Like, people were sitting at their desks and stuff would drop, conference calls didn't work and whatever. And what happened was, I'm sure Dave will go into more detail on this, is ultimately they pointed to our network. And we're like, well, we are a network engineering company. We're also a tier 2 internet service provider. We literally control all of the traffic from every single Ethernet port on our desk out to the internet. We know our stuff on this. And they kept going back to that, And we dropped RingCentral in and everything just worked perfectly. Like, literally no problems. So it just goes to show that not every unified comms platform is the same, because they all handle routing of voice traffic differently between apps, servers, internet, etc. And RingCentral's is absolutely solid.
Yeah. So a couple of quick things on that is, when we moved away from our previous system, which had been in place for a good 12 years or something like that.
Name is quite that long, but it was long enough.
It was a long time, very long time.
Felt like it.
People had become very used to that platform, and when we said we are moving, because we were in a position where our hardware is out of support, the software is out of support, we're having to pay through the nose for the maintenance of the platform thereafter. When we moved across this new platform, we'd done it in a very small controlled pilot environment, and as far as we were concerned, the platform worked. When we actually then began to roll that out across the masses and make it go live, is when we started realizing the sheer volume of issues that we had with the previous phone system. It is very, very, very easy for users to lose faith in the platform on day one, and that is exactly what we had. And as time went on and we were still stuck with this platform, people were making calls from their personal phones. They were hanging their heads out the window to get signal to make phone calls off their personal phone because our previous platform did not work. RingCentral, we took a bit more of an aggressive pilot approach to it. We did try it with a lot more users. And from day one, it was a case of, I cannot begin to tell you how good this is. We were actually having people coming up to us and patting the collective people on the back who made that decision that we had now found a phone system that worked. And just to throw that into the mix as well, the previous provider and RingCentral are working on the same network for us. No change, but company one said it's your network issue and that's why you're having all the issues. RingCentral came in absolutely zero issue.
Yeah, and from it sounds like we're being RingCentral fanboys. I mean, obviously we're on a RingCentral focused webinar, so we're not going to say everything's terrible. But in reality, from an organization perspective and from my personal perspective, going into senior management team meetings and board meetings, and every single time, every single week, we've had more complaints about the phone system. We've had more complaints about the phone system. It's hugely demoralizing as management and as a director of a business, but hugely demoralizing for our staff, because they want to come to work and sit at their desk and make some phone calls and receive some phone calls. It's like, it should be a really simple thing. It's like, I wrote a blog post a while ago about how IT should be like turning on a light switch. You shouldn't need to think about all of the stuff that happens in the background for power to be generated, the distribution networks, it getting to your house, breakers, all of that kind of stuff. You flick a light switch and the light comes on, and that's your expectation. It should be the same with things like phone systems and a lot of IT in general. And so the sense of, I think, it's not really even relief. It's just I think it's probably elation that came from our staff base when we turned on RingCentral and everything just kind of worked and they didn't have any of these problems. And it was an immediate switch. It was like one day they have a bunch of problems that just really grind them every single day they're working. And then the next day it's all just gone. That's a huge difference. That's like a massive monumental shift just in our staff morale.
And I think one final thing from me to add to that is that it sounds like quite a daunting task. If anyone watching this or currently on this is thinking, okay, well, we've got 600 handsets and 600 members of staff, and those people need that and those people need that. The actual process of getting from A to B is actually so straightforward. And what we found worked really well with RingCentral was the concept of user templates. So you can set up a template and say, these people are going to phone out using this external DDI. Their voicemail is going to go there. Their call flow is going to go here. This is what they can and can't do. You set up a template and then you import your users and just say, right, you're using that template and that one and that one, that one. And it can all be automated. And that alone saves so much time. You aren't having to go into 600 records and modify every little attribute of their account. You can just create 5 or 6 templates that fit your workload or your staff load and just add people in there and they pick up. So again, those templates can people make international calls, or are they national only, for example? So all of those kind of things, user templates really, really simplified the rollout for this.
I think we've deviated quite a lot from that actual answer.
Yes, we have.
you mentioned voicemail. There's one thing I just wanted to mention that I keep saying I've got favourite features about RingCentral, but the thing that I didn't even realise it had until the first one came through is automatically transcribe voicemails. Like, it is so awesome. And like, if you're out and about and you're on your mobile phone, to not have to try and find a voicemail, hit the button, and then listen to it, you can literally just read what it says, and the transcription is pretty accurate. Like, there's no AI transcription I've seen so far is 100%. So occasionally you get some quite funny, it hasn't quite picked it up, but every single time you know exactly what the person is saying to you, and you know what the message is. So you don't even need to listen to a voicemail, which is really cool. Like, that's for when you're mobile, that's an absolute game changer. So yeah, not a question, but I just thought I wanted to mention it because it's cool.
Yeah, and I would urge everybody on the call to sit down with us. Let's grab a coffee, a tea, a water, a juice, whatever, and just sit down and talk about what your whatever your environments look like and what you're doing today, whether or not it's something you can do today or whether or not it's something for 6-12 months time. Let's have a talk. Let's see what it looks like today, because it's not just about deploying a phone system. It's about taking everything you have now and drawing it closer together. So I've seen that myself from moving from one business to another, and I hope genuinely this is the last phone system I ever use, because the bar's been set as far as I'm concerned. But yeah,
that's good point from an employee retention point of view, actually, because you're probably not going to want to go to a company that doesn't use RingCentral now. So that's I
couldn't imagine it. I'd be very upset.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. All right, cool. So I think we're going to close it off there. We're going to play our, we've got like an outro video with the same music as the intro. So we'll hang around in chat for a little bit, but we'll be mics off, cameras off. So if you want to ask us any more questions, we'll give it sort of 5 minutes and have a little chat. But thanks everybody for attending, and anybody who's watching the replay of this, Ben's sentiment goes out to you guys as well. Please do get in contact with us. Talk about, what your situation is, what your wishes are, your objectives are, your problems, all of that stuff. That is literally what we're here for. So please make sure you use us for that. So guys, anything else you want to say before I hit the outro button?
All good.
Thank you very much.
We're all good. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you very much.